Well, friends, welcome to today's session. In the previous session, I think we were discussing about the features of international business, right? Various features we have already discussed. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And yeah, today then what we'll do, we'll plan to discuss about something about uniqueness of international business, benefits of international business. All these things we'll see today. I'm going to share the screen with you right now. Just give me a moment. Let us go to the appropriate slide. Risk and return concept associated with the international business has already been discussed. Features. Last session we are discussing about these features. Just have a quick look at these features of international business. Okay, just can anyone, if you quickly read these points, which you had already discussed in the previous class,
So first one is cross-country operations.
right?
Uh, Second one is more return, and the third one is more risk.
Okay,
Fourth one, large-scale operation.
fine,
Fifth one, integration of economics of many countries.
right,
Uh, then multiple currency.
right,
Seventh one is dominated by developed countries, or we can say MNCs.
okay,
Eighth one is benefits to participating countries.
okay,
Ninth one, keen competition,
hmm,
and then special role of science and technology,
okay.
international restrictions, sensitive in nature, and the last one is impacts forex reserve.
Yeah, these are the some of the features we had discussed in our previous class. Do you have any query on this, on any point?
No.
Okay, so this is in fact theoretical area. Coming to features of international trade and business, you can add many more points also. Find out if you can have any other point to be added. You can add those points. These are some minimum points which I had discussed in our previous class. Okay, this was about features of international trade and business. We had already discussed. Okay, and various means of international business, various modes, how international business functions. These aspects are also discussed in our previous class. Today, in fact, we are going to start the class to discuss about this thing: importance, uniqueness, and benefits. Let us target to cover all these three things today. First, coming to importance of international business. Okay, maybe very briefly, I might have discussed it earlier, but today we'll go a little detail. First of all, why the topic is important, the subject is important. I think previous class I had told you again. Day by day, export is increasing, import is increasing. Is it not? Yes or no? If you see the export statistics of India, or for that matter, any other country also, the export and import, you can see the size is increasing day by day, and money is received in foreign exchange. Okay, so these aspects we need to understand. For any businessman who is planning to do business, and if he has to export, he has to import, he need to understand what is the impact of foreign exchange and many other factors which are associated with the international business. You need to understand. Therefore, the subject of international business is important for us. Okay. And today, as you know, business means international business. There will be some impact, even if you are doing a purely domestic business. Indirectly, you are linked to the global market. Consequently, you will be facing the consequences of many factors which are associated with international business. Right. And if you look at today's economic market also, money is also raised from global market. Right. What is the advantages of raising money from global market? Anyone tell me? What is the advantage? Why money is to be raised from global market? Suppose you want a loan. Loan is available in India. A loan is available also from Switzerland. Where from you would like to take the loan? Did you
Uh,
understand this question?
In the capital intensive country, as you have said earlier, the interest
Yeah.
rate may be lower than us.
Okay.
So it
So
is
one of the
beneficial.
factor is that you will definitely like to compare the interest. Just like that, you cannot take uh, a decision. Is it not? You need to compare the interest. Yes or no? How
Yes,
much you will get if loan is taken from India? How much interest? What is the interest rate if loan is taken from India? And how much will be the interest rate if the loan is taken from Switzerland? You will compare them. And where you find it cheaper, naturally your cost of capital will be cheaper. We will go for that loan. Yes or no?
yes, sir.
Yeah. But you see, there is a risk also. What is the risk? If you take a foreign borrowing, what is the risk? Can anyone tell me?
Sir, maybe tomorrow the interest rate may be changed for
Interest rate may
any.
fluctuate. Okay, it's a trend. So no one can give guarantee that interest rate is constant. It may fluctuate. So interest rate fluctuation is one reason. But I'm looking for another reason also. Can anyone tell me?
So might be it is exchange rate of that country, or
Yeah, that is in fact more risk. That contributes more risk. Okay,
yes.
what happens in fact if the exchange rate fluctuates, then you might have to pay more. That possibility is also there. Is it not?
Yes.
Is it not? So therefore,
Mm,
so you may get loan at a concessional rate. Let us say in India you are getting a loan at 12%, but if you go to Switzerland you are getting a 2%. That possibility is there. Okay, but in case Switzerland currency value increases and India appreciates and Indian currency value depreciates, you might have to pay more. Therefore, while understanding international finance at that point of time, you need to at that time point of time we'll try to understand that both the things needs to be compared. Okay, because if you are ultimately paying more, that also affects your cost of capital, isn't it? Rate of
yes, sir.
interest is one thing, but because of exchange rate fluctuation, you might have to pay more. That is also your cost of capital. So you are taking that risk, is it not? So we need to understand all these things, is it not? Now you have understood it's not a simple decision. It is not a very simple decision like domestic business. That domestic business, let us say State Bank of India is rate, let us say 15%. Let us say another bank, for example, will say Punjab National Bank, let us say 16%, you will go for State Bank of India. Okay, without thinking anything, you can directly go. But let us say here is one bank, let us say State Bank of India, the rate is the same 15%. Let us say some Australian banks rate is 12%. You cannot blindly go to Australian bank because here again you have to compare what is the possibility that Australian currency may appreciate with reference to Indian currency or Indian currency may depreciate because that will affect your cash flow. The decision is not that simple. Since these complexities are there, it is important for us to understand the concept of international business. We need to understand the risks associated with the international business. Are you agreeing or not?
Yes, sir.
Mm,
Yes. Okay, friends. Then competition. Competition, because of competition, also the importance of international business is growing day by day. Business environment has become more and more competitive. Already it is competitive, right? Everybody is trying what? Increase its market size, expand the market. And everybody is also trying to reduce the cost to adopt better technology. All these things are possible through international business. How it is possible? Let us say if you borrow more money from a foreign country, there is a possibility that your cost of capital might be cheaper. If you import raw material, there is a possibility that your cost of production can be low. Is it not? And if you let us say export and sell in foreign market, there is a possibility your top line may increase, revenue may grow. As a result of which you'll be earning more profit. And there is also a possibility you can reduce your sales price. Yes or no?
yes, sir.
Okay. Suppose the product you are selling at 100 rupees, you can sell it at 90 rupees because you are saving from your cost of capital. You are saving from your cost of production. Okay, you are also saving from your market expansion. You are selling more products. Okay, the product which you are selling at 100 rupees may be selling at 90. You may be able to sell it at 90 rupees. As a result, what will happen? That is a threat to your competitor. Competitor may not be able to survive unless he also does international business. Okay, you are selling 100 rupees, you are also selling 100 rupees, but you have brought the price to 90 rupees. Can he survive?
No.
He has to produce it within 90 rupees. If he does that, maybe there will be quality issue. Quality may deteriorate. So unless he also adopts the same strategy, then it will be very difficult for him to compete. Is it not? So that is one more reason. Since competitor is entering into the market, entering into international business, companies also enter into international business. That is one more reason why it's growing. And as you know, to expand sales also, let us say domestic market is saturated, or people want, or the entity want to multiply its sales revenue, it may go to international market, participate in international trade and expand its sales. Sometimes companies enter into international market to acquire resources, right? To acquire service facilities, to acquire technologies, even to acquire human resources. They venture into international trade and business. They do business in multiple countries. Diversification of sources is one more reason. They want to diversify the business so that risk can be minimized. Okay, instead of operating in one country, if business, let us say, business is spread over multiple countries, the risk get reduced. Yes or no?
Yes.
Then to minimize competitive risk also, that is for defensive reasons, people also participate, or entities also participate in international business. So these are various reasons for which companies or entities participate in international business. Other reasons are also there. Topic is theoretical. You can add more and more points also. Okay, MNCs, number of MNCs are growing day by day. Exchange rate has become more and more volatile. Therefore, we need to understand the concepts of international business. And more importantly, we'll be learning subsequently. There are many Indian firms have started raising money from abroad. Okay, by getting the equities listed in foreign stock exchanges. Okay, through ADR, GDR routes also, companies have started availing finance, availing capital from foreign countries. ADR stands for American Depository Receipt. GDR stands for Global Depository Receipts. Okay, Indian company. There are many Indian companies who have already issued ADRs and GDRs. And there are many companies whose shares are listed in foreign stock exchanges. So Indian companies are raising finance from foreign market, exporting goods, importing goods. In that kind of situation, and you know, almost every company is getting linked with the international market, which is more complex, more risky. So in that globally competitive situation, in this kind of globally competitive risky situation, is it not important to understand the concepts of international business? Answer will be yes. It is extremely important. Everybody should know. Then only one can be globally competitive and the business can survive at a global level. So therefore, this knowledge is important for us. And this topic is unique. Why it is unique? First of all, can you see what is the first reason? Uniqueness. Coming to the uniqueness of international business subject. First, point number one, please read. Some of you please read it.
Use of different currencies by different countries.
Yes. You see, you are doing a business. Let us say, so long as you are doing purely domestic business, you have to deal with how many currencies? If you are in purely domestic business. Are you getting my question? Suppose you are doing domestic business. How many types of currencies are involved in a domestic business?
More than two types of currencies.
How?
One is our domestic currency and others are the abroad state currencies.
Okay. You see, if you're doing domestic business, you have to deal only with domestic currency. No, we are not dealing with any foreign currency.
Sir, sorry, it's domestic business means only our state, only our country
Yeah,
currencies.
domestic business only your own currency, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that is very simple, very easy. For you, you are selling a commodity or selling a service and getting some currency. Okay. But
Yes, sir.
if the moment you talk about international business, various currencies are involved. Just if you're dealing with Singapore, you have to deal with Singapore dollar. If you're dealing with Australia, you have to deal with Australian dollar. If you're dealing with US, you have to deal with US dollar. Okay, if you're dealing with, let us say, UK, you have to deal, UK, you have to deal with pound. If you have to deal with Japan, you have to deal with yen. Okay, so many countries, many currencies. So is it not unique? And if each currency is fluctuating.
Sir, each currency may have the different values.
Each value of each currency is different. And not only different doesn't mean that at one point of time it is different. It is continuously changing. Meaning morning one value, evening will be different value. So you have to keep track of all the currencies. Is it not a unique kind of business?
Yes, sir.
Then you need to understand one more thing also. Different exchange rate regimes. Last class I had only briefed you. Different exchange rate regimes means broadly there are two kinds of exchange rate regime. We can see, yeah, or you can say countries follow those kind of exchange rate policies. What is that? One can be fixed exchange rate regime. That means exchange rate will not fluctuate. Long back, India had that kind of system. Okay, fixed exchange rate regime. That means, let us say, dollar value is 70, means it is 70. It will continue as 70 till RBI decides to change it. That is called fixed exchange rate regime. Floating exchange rate regime means what? Dollar price will fluctuate, or every currency price will fluctuate. Okay, because it is open to the market, depending upon the demand and supply situation, currency rate will be fluctuating. Are you getting? So no one can say what will be the price. So that is called as pure floating exchange rate regime. But practically, countries do not follow pure floating rate exchange regime. What countries they do? They follow floating exchange rate regime, but sometimes when requirement is there, so the central bank of the country or government of the country intervenes to monitor that. Okay, suppose dollar value is 70s, it should not suddenly become 80. Today it is 70, next day it should not become 80. So central bank intervenes in such a way that there is a smooth transition from 70 to 80. So by creating artificial demand, by artificial supply, central bank monitors. Otherwise, if there is sudden jump or sudden fluctuation, then international business will become terribly risky. Nobody will participate in international business because no one know how much you will get. Today dollar value is 70, next day it is 100. So suppose you have to pay $100, you don't know how much you have to pay in Indian rupees. It will be very risky, is it not? So there should be a smooth transition. If 70 will become to 100, it should take at least 6 months. So very slowly it should go in that direction. Are you getting? So therefore,
Yes.
the central bank intervenes. Okay, but if central bank is not at all intervening, we'll call it as a clean float. That means currency rates are floating in the market. Rates are determined by the market. Okay, if central bank intervenes, you can say there is a managed float. Currency rate is floating, but it is managed by central bank. But this kind of management, let's say this kind of interventions are, let us say, too frequent. Every time government is intervening to decide the currency rate, then it is referred to as dirty float. Did you understand?
Yes, sir.
So every country follows a different exchange rate regime. So you need to understand which country follows which exchange rate regime. And as of now, almost all the countries are, let us say, following exchange rate regime, floating exchange rate regime, except perhaps one country, which is Peru. Otherwise, all other countries follow floating exchange rate regime. That means their currencies will fluctuate. But sometimes their central banks intervene, sometimes they don't. Some countries have clean float, some countries have managed float, some countries have static float. So accordingly, you need to understand. You need to understand the possibility of the fluctuation by understanding the exchange rate regime followed by a country. Did you understand this concept?
Yes, sir.
It's clear to you? So now you have understood that this is one more uniqueness in international business. In domestic business, you do not consider all these things. Which exchange rate country is following, you are not bothered about this. And again, one more uniqueness of international business is that change in exchange rate has profound effect. A small change in exchange rate may terribly affect your top line, bottom line. It will terribly affect your revenue. It will affect your profitability also. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And risk is incremental. Incremental since all the risk that you are having in the domestic business, this risk is still there. In addition to that, you are facing some more risk. Therefore, it is incremental risk. And this business has to be done in diversified culture. Culture is diversified. Is it not? So when you are doing business, you need to understand the cultural differences. Otherwise, business may not click. Are you agreeing with me now?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe you have developed a product. Maybe one country white color is acceptable, but same product maybe some other country, unless it is a green color, it may not be acceptable. Some countries are referred to as colorful countries. There are various colors in their country. And few countries you can find very limited colors they use. White, black, gray, that's it. Is it not? In our country, you can find variety of colors. Every color you can find, anything.
Yes.
So accordingly, if you are developing a product, let us say you are developing a garment. Okay, the same garment may be very popular in India, but may not be preferred at, let us say, Japan. Are you agreeing or not? Because of cultural differences. Not only product, you think of something, let us say, advertisement. The kind of advertisement, let us say one kind of advertisement is working very good at in India. That doesn't mean that the same advertisement can be continued at, let us say, Middle East. No, not possible. You have to have a different kind of advertisement because we are doing business in a diversified culture. Are you agreeing? Agreeing or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, friends, let us discuss some of the benefits of international business. I request you to read one by one. Please read point number 1.
Surplus financial resources of capital-rich countries get transferred to capital-poor countries.
Yes. So capital-rich countries, they have surplus financial resources. They have more capital. They have more money. Okay. But investment opportunities are available in other countries, which are, let us say, capital poor countries. Capital poor countries need money. So if that money gets transferred to capital poor countries would like to pay more interest. Okay. So consequently, what will happen? Resource gets transferred. Okay, money is flowing from capital rich country to a capital poor country. Advantages is that capital rich country people, what they will get more interest. Is it not? In their country, interest rates are less because everybody is having money. And what is the advantages for capital poor country? they will get a chance to produce those goods and services. They can establish industries. Otherwise, because of lack of money, they could have sacrificed those projects. Are you getting? So both the countries, people are getting benefit. It's a win-win situation. Okay. So second point, as you see, you can read it. Can you read it?
Residents of capital-rich countries will earn higher return.
Will higher return. Are you agreeing to it? You might be thinking how they will get higher return, because if their country, if they make investment, they may get 2%. But same investment, if you're making in a capital poor country, they may get 10%. Okay, so their return is high. Okay, did you understand?
Yes, sir.
Point number 3.
Capital poor country will benefit by earning profits on projects which they would otherwise have had to forego.
Yeah, so capital poor countries, since now they are getting money from capital rich country, they can start the project. Otherwise, they could have to forego. Because the kind of money required, the kind of capital required to do that project, they are not having. So because of international business, because of benefits of international business, both the countries are gaining. One country is getting more return, other country is getting projects, that is goods and services is getting. Point number 4.
Smoother consumption patterns enjoyed by all the countries over a period of time.
Over a period of time, what will happen? Consumption pattern will become smooth. How it becomes smooth? Let us say, take an example of some country. Let's say North Korea, everyone is using AC. But India, if you produce AC, it will become very costly. But if the AC is imported from that place, it will become cheaper. Okay. So because, let us say, some products are getting imported and coming from different countries, it is available at a low price so that anyone can afford. Okay. Same product is costly in some, is cheaper in some other country. And if it is brought to this country, products will be cheaper. So that everybody will be able to use that product. Otherwise, using AC will be very difficult. Only rich people can use it. Middle class people may not be able to use it. Now, middle class people will be using only when products are available at a cheap rate. Okay, so over a period of time, because of international business, so products from different countries will be coming to India, so that everybody can consume it. So that process will make the consumption pattern smooth. Everywhere people will be consuming. AC, which was only used by rich countries, now poor country people can also use it. So is it not smoothening consumption? Yes or no? Consumption
Yes, sir.
pattern is getting smooth or not? It's getting smoother and smoother. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then possibility of enjoying the benefits of diversification. One more benefit is that when business gets diversified, there is a lot of benefit. First benefit is that risk is reduced. Okay, now you are not dealing with one market, you are dealing with multiple markets which are located in different countries. Advantage is that if one market is risky, you can do business in some other market. Okay, if the one market situation is adverse to your business, doesn't matter. Some other market you can still operate, you can still get some profit. So that is the advantage. These are the benefits of international trade. Are you getting these points, these benefits?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you can add more points also. Now, let us see few more points. These are in fact few factors that influence the growth of globalization. Or you can say these are the factors which has influenced the growth of international business or international trade. Both are connected things. Globalization, international business, international trade, all are connected things. The reasons of the factors you can see. First of all, technology is expanding. Technology specifically in the mode of transportation, mode of communication has changed, and because of improvements in this transportation mechanism, international trade and business has grown substantially. And you can see globalization, and these are one of the major factors which contribute towards globalization. Governments also, various countries' governments are day by day removing the restrictions which are imposed on international business. Okay, government of various countries are in fact trying that there should be free trade to the extent possible. And there are various institutions which provide services to facilitate international trade. Okay, governments gives guarantee also to do international trade. Government has formed various institutions which will be facilitating this international trading process. And consumers are also started looking at foreign goods and services, and they are also interested in foreign culture. And this also contributes towards international growth of international trade and business. And competition have become more global. Political relationships have improved among major economic powers. That also plays a key role. Okay, political connections and political relationships also affects global business. Countries operate more on transnational issues, complete cooperative mode. So every country has become more and more cooperative, which facilitates international trade and business. Countries have started entering into many cross-national cooperation agreements. So they enter into agreements to jointly do trade and business. Countries have started recognizing the product performance, skill, quality differences, and they have started working on bringing improvement on that. So these are various regions. So you can add many more regions also. These regions have contributed towards growth of globalization or growth of international trade and commerce. Okay, got some idea?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. Got some idea about what is this thing? What are the various regions? What are the benefits of international trade and commerce? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, friends. So what we'll do, the next concept we are supposed to learn, globalization. We'll be learning it maybe in the next session. We're going to cover that thing.